Hello neighbors, it's Brad here from eTrailer, and today we are taking a look and installing the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver on a 2025 Chevy Equinox EV. Adding a trailer hitch receiver to your Equinox is a really great addition for a lot of different adventures. So whether you're pulling a small trailer or putting a bike rack or cargo carrier on, your trailer hitch receiver really opens it up as to what you can do with your vehicle and really real estate that you didn't have previous. Now this one being installed, you can see that it is an exposed cross tube. So you are going to see a good majority of the hitch, but just because the vehicle sits a little bit lower, you really can't see a whole lot. And really all that's going to be visible when you're looking from behind is going to be the 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is kind of the standard size when it comes to trailer hitch receivers. So that means when you're choosing those accessories, you're going to have tons of options available. Now, all of those accessories are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. Now, this is not included with the hitch, but many times when you pick up accessories, they'll have them included. And something I'd recommend if you plan on leaving your accessories like your bike rack on for a whole season, it's worthwhile to pick up a locking pin and clip. That becomes a really good deterrent for anyone walking by. They can't just take out that pin and clip and the accessories with them. Now I mentioned pulling a small trailer, so if you are pulling a trailer, you're going to be hooking up safety chains. We have a rolled style safety chain loop, super easy to hook up your standard S-hooks. Even a larger clevis style is going to go on here with no issues. And speaking of towing and just using accessories in general, you're going to want to adhere to the weight capacities not only of the hitch, but also check the vehicle's owner's manual, see what it's capable of towing, and then compare that with the hitch, as well as any of the accessories that you'll be putting onto your hitch. Now this one's rated fairly well. You have a gross trailer weight rating of 3,500 pounds, which is the weight of the trailer, plus the accessories loaded onto it. Your tongue weight rating, which is the downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube opening, really accounts for your bike racks and cargo carriers, basically your suspended weight. This one comes in at 350 pounds, and with that, you can probably get a 4-bike rack loaded up, depending on the weight of the bikes, or a cargo carrier on vacation with some coolers and things along those nature. So with 350 pounds, it's still gonna really open up as to what you can bring along with you. Something that's fairly unique with this vehicle, and I think just Equinox in general, is going to be this sits pretty far recessed, which it looks clean, but when it comes time to putting accessories on, from the center of the hitch pin hole to the furthest point on the fascia, it's going to be 8 inches. So what does that mean for you? Well, some bike racks, you may have some clearance issues, and cargo carriers as well. Now you can get extensions a lot of times, but it's when it becomes a folding accessory that I might find that you're going to have some issues, because as you stow those vertically, you need to make sure that there's going to be space to be able to fit here without making contact with your fascia. That way they can fully latch and also not damage your vehicle in the process. Now with those folding accessories, more than likely you're going to be blocking your rear view camera, your license plate, and just kind of something to keep in mind when you have those stowed away. You can always fold those down if you ever need to gain access to your hatch. Now with that measurement too, it's going to be important if you are getting a ball mount to tow. I would really look at one with a long shank. An extended one will put the ball out far enough to where you can hook up the coupler of the trailer. Now granted, this is tapered pretty good, so I don't worry too much, but also I would probably look at one that sticks out a little bit further. And the same thing for accessories. You can always get an extender, but maybe look for ones with slightly longer shanks. And you can always take a look at etrailer.com for accessories to see how those are going to interact with this vehicle. Another measurement that we're going to do is ground clearance. So from the top of the receiver tube opening to the ground, it's right at about 11 inches, give or take. And so that's important for 2 reasons. When you have your accessories on, like cargo carriers and bike racks, it's a fairly low ground clearance. So if you go up a steep incline over a large bump, those can bottom out. So try to go at a 45 if you can, or avoid if you need to. That way you're not damaging your accessories while you have them loaded up. But that measurement's also really going to come into play when trying to tow a trailer with a fixed ball mount, because you want it nice and level to go down the road for the best towing experience. So the way to determine your rise or drop necessary is going to take that measurement and then measure your trailer on flat level ground from the ground to the top of the coupler. Generally, those trailers are going to come in about 18 inches, give or take, depending on the trailer. So with this application, I'd probably think that you're going to be in a rise position to get that all hooked up and level. Now, you could always get an adjustable ball mount to account for that. But again, get one with a longer shank. I think you're going to be a lot happier with hookup for that. But in terms of installation, I'll be walking you through that. And if you're a DIYer doing this, the video is going to help take a look at the instructions as well for some of the torque settings. But if you watch the video and decide, you know what, that's not something I want to tackle by myself, I don't have the time, the place, the tools, or even the want to do it, I totally get that. But if you're looking for a hitch, you got some adventures waiting for you. So you can find someone to get the hitch installed for you by using our dealer locator. You'll simply put in your zip code and find a list of dealers near you that can get the hitch installed for you so you can be out on your road enjoying your adventures. The first thing that we need to do to get our installation started is going to be removing our underbody panel. So this blocks, a lot of wind and debris from getting up there, but in order for a hitch to live, this has to come down, and we will be trimming this a little bit later to account for the hitch. Now, we do have quite a bit of hardware that we're going to be removing that holds this in place. It's all going to be a 7mm socket, but as we pull these screws off, have a nice organized spot to keep them. It'll make reinstallation a lot easier. That way you don't have to search for all your hardware. So what we'll do is we're going to start at this bottom edge here and just work our way around this outside edge. Now, once we get those, there's also going to be ones in the insets that we have under here. So let's start taking these out. And once you have all the bottom ones removed, there are going to be two more that are going to be located on the outside corners where you'll see this kind of wheel well trim go over the plastic. Just reach your finger up and you're going to have one located here as well as the other side. With all of our hardware removed, we'll just pull this out and this should drop out. We'll set this aside for now. Now with that panel out, we're going to start to see where we're going to put our hardware. And so eventually we're going to have our spacer block and our carriage bolts feeding through this hole and this hole. And in order to get them in place, you'll see that it's not going to fit the head of the carriage bolt, and also the spacer block is a little bit too wide. So we're going to enlarge this just a little. So a few different methods that you can use is a die grinder works really well. I'm going to use a burr bit just to widen this out. If you have a Dremel cutting wheel, you can just run that across. Really, as long as you open it up well enough for your hardware to pass through, you're going to be looking pretty good. So keep the hardware on hand just to test to make sure that it feeds in, and we'll be doing this on both sides of the vehicle. So as far as largening this, again, really whatever method you have is going to work best. So I'm going to just work on one edge and then the opposite edge, and that generally will give us enough space for the head of the bolt to go through. Using the burr bit, great option, pretty easy to do. If you have a step bit, that's also another good option. Really just trying to make this big enough for that hardware. So I got mine widened out, and it really didn't take too much to get it wide enough for this to slide up. And the carriage bolt, it doesn't have to go just squared up. A lot of times, as long as you can get the head to slide in like that, we're looking good. But where we grind out is raw exposed metal, and we want to make sure that long term it doesn't turn into rust and corrosion. So if you have some spray paint, I'm going to use black here, but if you have clear or really anything to coat those raw edges, that's going to be enough protection long term. Grab a pull wire, a carriage bolt, and a spacer block. You're going to be using this combo, 2 on each side. And what we'll do is we'll take the coiled end and we're going to feed that into either one of the holes and feed this back to the access hole that we enlarged. From here, don't pull it all the way through. We're going to want to keep this pull wire on there, but we'll take our spacer block, feed this up into the frame, and then take our carriage bolt and we'll thread this on. And as I mentioned, you don't have to go square on this, so if you just bend this, slide it up into place, as long as you get that up in the frame rail, when you pull out this slack, that's going to allow you to drop the bolt down. Now keep the pull wire on. This really helps when we raise the hitch up to guide it into place, but also it's going to prevent it from popping up in the frame rail until we have that hitch slid up into place. So we're going to repeat the same process for this hole and then also on the other side of it. With our hardware in place, grab an extra set of hands so you can slide the hitch up, and I would recommend having at least one of your serrated flange nuts ready to go. So our goal is to get our pull wires fed through the corresponding holes of the hitch, and that's going to help guide it up and make sure that those studs come down. Once we have this raised up, we can get one started on each side. It'll make it a lot easier to get the other hardware started. Now on the EV, you do have a few things going on here as far as a pedestrian alert device, as well as a wiring harness. So I would recommend sliding it up on that side first, and then you can feed the other side in. And you'll see having those pull wires, you're able to kind of get that pulled down. And from here, you can pull the end off. And if you use the hitch and push a little tension towards it, it'll keep the bolt from feeding up. And all you really have to do is get a few threads started. And once you have that on both sides, then you can use your other hands to, the hitch will be supported. You can get the other one started. Once you get all of those flange nuts started, we're going to snug them down. I'm using a 1/2-inch impact. I'm not going to go crazy here. I just want to tighten them up because we're going to come back with a torque wrench and properly torque them all down. So go through and get these tightened. Torque settings are going to be found in the instruction manual. And if you need a torque wrench, we have them available here at eTrailer. You can generally go to an auto parts store and rent one for free or borrow one from a neighbor, but this is gonna make sure that long term you can safely use your hitch for towing. It's not gonna become loose. It's also not gonna be too tight, putting stress on the frame or any of the hardware. Now the hitch is officially installed. So for our underbody panel, there are going to be some measurements that are in the instruction manual, and it's pretty wide. We're just going to be cutting slats in order for it to slide on the side portions of the hitch, and we'll still be able to get everything mounted up, which is really nice. The measurements are good as far as determining, roughly where it should be. Me personally, I like to really hold this up and mark it up based off of how our hitch looks while it's installed. So looking at where this would mount up, get that lined, and this is a good way to just get references of where we need to trim. And we can always trim a little bit wider, but at least having a reference to where we need to be, we can double check our measurements. So I'll get both sides marked out, and then we'll start cutting this. With my markings that I made, the measurements that are in the instructions are pretty close. So again, start small when you're trimming. You can always widen it out a little bit. And so 38 7/8 should be the width that we have. And then as far as distance back, it'll be 7.5 inches. So what I like to do is get some painter's tape and mark that out so we get some nice clean lines to follow. And so now's a good time to get painter's tape, as well as whatever cutting method you're using. With plastic, you could get away with some tin snips. I recommend using a power tool of some sort. I like my oscillating tool, but if you have an angle grinder or a Dremel or anything along those lines to get this cut out nice and clean, that's going to be your best option. Now taping this out, it does kind of follow this outside, kind of inset here. So I'm going to cut along here 7.5 inches back, and we'll mock it up. And again, if we're a little bit off and we have to widen it out, not really a big deal, because once this is all mounted up, it should look really clean. So I'll get this cut out. Now something that I'll point out while we have our underbody panel down, before I put it back up, I'll be installing Curt wiring, and this is going to give us 4-pull function. And if you are planning on pulling a trailer or having an accessory with lighted function and a 4-pull, it's a great time to do it at the same time, because if you look where your pedestrian alert device is on your passenger side, if you look back a little bit further, there's this dummy cap with a red locking tab. You'll just simply pull this cap off, put your harness in place, and then you can zip tie this up, head it over to your safety chain loops to be able to cap this in place. And then you're gonna have 4-pull function. So definitely something worthwhile. I know on the internet there's a lot of times that people have struggled as far as not having a factory option or feeling that they need to go to the dealership to get it reprogrammed. And that very well could be the case, but in ours today, I was able to plug this in and get light functions working properly. Now I got my panel all back in place, and as I mentioned, I was doing the wiring at the same time. And if you're doing the same thing, I did put a small notch, and you'll see where that flat section ends here on the underbody panel. So just cut back far enough to where the wires can feed through. And then as far as this wiring, I'll probably put some wire loom just to make it look nice and clean. I got all the hardware back in place. I will say the ones right here are tricky to get back with a socket, so I did use a small little 7mm wrench to tighten that down. But beyond that, it's all installed, so all you really need to do is load up your accessories, put in your pin and clip, and you're ready to hit the road. And that was a look and installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver on a 2025 Chevy Equinox EV. Now, hopefully this video helped you get your hitch installed, and if there's anything that I might have missed or maybe some tips or tricks that you found along the way, feel free to take some pictures, send some comments, and also, if you're out there on those adventures, those are also pictures we'd love to see from you all. We love to make sure that our videos are best as possible for neighbors like you that are going to be doing installs at home. My name is Brad. Thanks for watching.